Right, so we're redoing this, unfortunately, Sibu. I'm sorry. The last time we did this podcast and we got a post-show interview with Sibu, we had particular morons that were making quite a lot of noise in the background. No names mentioned.
I'm sorry, I'll just tell my paying clients to go fuck themselves.
Quite a lot of noise in the background while we were filming. No one in particular.
Yeah.
So we're going to redo that. Sibs, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back. You are looking quite a bit larger and quite a bit fuller than when you were on stage. How much weight have you put on? How much are you weighing in at the moment?
We were 114 in Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm 134.
Okay, so you put on some size?
Yeah.
What, 114 in Chicago, 134, 20 kilos.
20 kilos.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like I was discussing in previous podcasts, taking advantage of the post-show anabolic rebound window to put on as much size as possible. Steve's is not going to do it now, but he still has visible abs, still looking very good. So a lot of glycogen, a lot of cell hyperemia, a lot of swole going down since Chicago. Dude, big lessons for all of us, getting on the international stage.
Absolutely.
First and foremost and most importantly, what's it like standing on stage with some of the best of the best?
It's great, bro. It was a humbling experience, number one. Number two, it was an eye-opener. And also, I think what the feel you get when you get there is that you understand why the guys look the way they do. They don't have to tell you that they put in the hours. They don't have to tell you the sacrifices they've done. You just see it in the fact that this is all they do, and there's no excuses.
The physiques speak for themselves.
Absolutely, bro. You know, it's the physique, it's the aura, it's the I'm here to take names and fuck it up.
And while we're on that topic, who stood out to you like a sore thumb while you were over there, like pumping up backstage? Anyone that
You did two shows. You did
I did
Chicago, a week later you did Vancouver.
100%. So in Chicago, Charles Griffins was impressive, bro, backstage, eh?
Okay.
Pumping up was very, very impressive. And then obviously you got to respect how full and round Michael Lockett is. You know, like, pictures actually don't do him justice, bro. Like, you have to see it in person, you're like, okay, I get that, you know, it's just roundness, that fullness, the 3D kind of look, you know, that she actually has, to be honest,
Sure.
you know. So, and then
When he's not mainlining KFC.
when he starts having
Or
Kit
Kit
Kats,
Kats, yeah.
100%. And then we headed off to Canada. Hadi, bro, like,
Hadi, Choopan.
Yeah.
yes.
You described the scene backstage when you were pumping up backstage
Yeah.
and you looked at him and his
Yeah.
conditioning.
Yeah,
Break
yeah.
that down for us.
It's so I'm busy popping up with Samson Dawuda, and we obviously just trying to mind our own business. And this guy starts doing delts, and then eventually starts doing biceps, and you could see the blood flow going up and down his bicep
Because his skin was so thin.
that 100%. You know,
And a lot of guys are trying to throw out or take stabs at him, saying that he uses synthol and things like that. Did you?
I didn't see none of
Yeah.
that, bro. It's just pure conditioning. He for me as a kind of physique. Look, when you talk aesthetics, we talk about different physiques. You know what I mean? I wouldn't aspire to look like that in terms of aesthetic wise, but you cannot deny how conditioned he was. And there's something about his physique that you need to see it. When you sit backstage and then you see it on stage, it's
Two different things.
it's a transition, because it's like it's great backstage, and then he gets on stage. I think the word I'm looking for is presence. He has a presence about his physique. There's a flow about him that makes sense for his physique.
His posing's also very good. Watching
Brilliant.
the feed, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think what also he does, which you can understand why he's grown his name, is that he has a certain thing about him. It's an aura, or whatever the case may be, where he draws a crowd in.
Yeah.
He brings back the entertainment part of bodybuilding.
Okay.
And that's more.
Yeah, I thought it was a very, very deserving win. I
Absolutely.
think he looked incredible.
Absolutely.
I was very irritated with some of the jabs Nathan to Asha made on social media and then very quickly deleted.
Yes.
Maybe I got beaten by oil.
Synthol, yeah.
No,
or whatever
no,
that
there's
may be.
none of that, bro.
It's just
I
sour
didn't-
grapes. I thought Nathan.
No.
I think Nathan's a fantastic athlete, and I mean no
He didn't
disrespect
look
to
great
him.
at the show.
He didn't look at his best. He was conditioned, of course, but the level of conditioning that we've grown to expect of someone like him in particular, his caliber,
Yeah.
he wasn't up
No
there.
ways.
I also, again, to be frank, I thought Ian was very disappointing.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is I think he looks very different in pictures to how he looks in person. And I was watching the muscular development live feed backstage and watching all the athletes pump up. I think I wasn't very impressed by Ian's physique. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's amazing. I think he's a lot going for him. I've been talking about Ian for months. To show the irony is that Sibu and I are actually arguing about his physique. Me obviously defending it, saying how amazing it was.
Yeah.
Sibu messages me one morning and goes, "It's competing in Vancouver." Because he's not human. I mean, the guy's monstrous. He's carrying huge amounts of muscle.
Yes.
And the moment I saw it, I just replied back, "Look at God." That's Sibu's slogan that he drops all the time. So I was very excited to see them stand together. But again, respectfully, I just felt that it was underwhelming.
So he hasn't qualified for the O, because he didn't place in any of the pro shows.
Didn't he come fourth?
So it's obviously now it's a waiting game. It's a points waiting game.
Okay.
So it just depends how many shows he's done.
Look, I still follow him. I think he's got a monstrous physique. I just, I was a bit underwhelmed when I saw him on stage and actually the body moving. Again, it's probably because he's standing on stage brushing shoulders with Hadi, Choopan and Nathan to Asha, etc., etc. So it's a much higher level or, athlete repertoire with which to,
gauge
judge
yourself
him.
with 100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Sibs, from my side, and I think I've spoken to you in person, just being frank, I don't feel Chicago was close to your best.
Yeah.
We made a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely.
That we're obviously going to go back to the drawing board and we're going to refine and do our very best.
Absolutely.
I thought that you were a lot better in Vancouver, even though you didn't get the commensurate placing. You placed 9th in Chicago, you placed 11th in Vancouver, but fuller. Upper body was much more crisp. I thought your legs were a little bit watery in Vancouver compared to Chicago. You spilled quite a bit, but all in all, a far more impressive physique. And it you could see it in your posing, in your facial expressions. You knew that you felt better and stuff like that, which is great. But we something that I touched base on in a podcast earlier. You came back with the view and resolution to taking a long detox, redoing your bloods, making sure that everything was on parity with our expectations and in terms of the standards of health that we set for one another.
Absolutely.
And you got a promoter in South Korea who has unbelievably generously offered to fund your entire trip to go and compete in South Korea in 12 weeks.
Bro, it's great, bro, because with respect, I think it takes about, guys, 2 or 3 years to get to this level where you get invited to an all expenses paid pro trip. So this guy DM'd me just casually, "Hey Sibu," got straight to the point. "I'm a promoter of the show that's happening in South Korea. Would you like to come through?" I was like, okay. And then his next message was like, "Dude, everything is on us. Just let us know."
That's an amazing opportunity. Very grateful for that.
Absolutely, I am. I absolutely am. What it's done for me, Jack, obviously because of the conversation we all had, is the fact that now I'm in a position where I understand fully what it means to become a pro. It's my profession. And the desire and the hunger that I have to do this, and that for his invitation, to extend that invitation, was a validation that yes, I might have placed 9th and 11th, but there's potential.
Sure.
It's
a feather in your hat.
100%. But why would you invite a guy that didn't place top 6 kind of thing?
I was saying to Jack earlier, and maybe you can give us your take on it, but I think it's such a good opportunity also based on the fact that you're able to get your name out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it comes down to in the day. The judges need to get familiar with your physique.
Absolutely,
they need to get familiar with your face and your name. So every single time they call your name out on stage, they know exactly who they're going to be looking at.
Bro.
And that's just going to take time.
Yeah.
I mean, your physique speaks for itself, but they just need to get familiar with who you are, and I think that's going to take some time, and it can only get better from here.
That's very true.
Something we touched base on briefly as well in one of the other podcasts that I wanted to run by you. Steve basically pointed out the potential nepotism at shows with regards to athletes placing by virtue of who they are and who their coach is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Steve pointed out, what was my concern? And I spoke for myself. I'll just sort of reiterate briefly what I said. We'll get your take on it.
Yeah.
I said that I believe that there's a degree of nepotism in every industry.
Absolutely.
Okay? I'm okay with that. I also don't feel that the degree of nepotism in the bodybuilding industry is to such a degree that it's ever going to hamper your progress.
Yeah.
And if ever it did, I'd be the first person to bow out and gracefully say, "Sibu, I've taken you as far as I possibly can, and by association, you're not getting as far as you could."
Absolutely.
And I'd sort of shake your hand and still support you from the sidelines and do everything that I possibly could. But I'm of the opinion that we haven't even come close to seeing what you're capable of. We haven't even come close to seeing what I'm capable of, and we haven't vaguely scratched the surface of what we are capable of.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on that?
No, it's true. Look, I mean, as Carl said, and obviously as you reiterated as well, is that there is a sense of, certain people get called out because of their name. You know what I mean? And it also has to do with, as Carl said, having face time. You know what I mean? Because they've seen you now, and you also, if you're kind of caliber of athlete that has been, like, for example, in Miss Olympia, there's certain names, obviously, that, like, they're going to make the first call out because...
And it's not just international.
No,
like,
no.
Think about it here in South Africa.
No, locally. It happened locally. But, I mean, with respect, you know, I became a big fish in a small pond in South Africa where I stepped on stage. Come on, right? 2017, stepped on stage without them even looking at the list. They're like, Sibu out.
Yeah.
So it happens because, you know, it's you've built the name in South Africa. You're now that athlete. You're the athlete to beat. You know what I mean? I mean, you go to overalls. There's just certain names, you know, they're going to be called out for the overall win, you know. So it happens, and as Carl said, I mean, Stan actually reiterated this because I've always
a Stan animal.
A Stan animal, 100%. You know,
you trained with him and Shawn there. That looks
100%.
amazing. We're really jealous.
And we're still
living
speaking
vicariously through you guys
but
training
yeah.
in Gold's Gym.
It was absolutely Charles Glass, absolutely amazing. We spoke about this because we've been an amateur and not understanding bodybuilding in the marketing side of things, in the showing face side of things. I always thought maybe I need to take the year off and all of that. It's like, no, don't do that. You know, it becomes a symbiotic relationship with the judges, the promoters, the coaches, the athletes, where judges also want to feel invested in your journey.
Yeah.
Where if the judges say, hey, listen, I think you should work on A, B, and C, you know, the head judge, therefore, obviously, you then go back the following competition or the following year, hey, listen, I've improved on this. They feel invested, and now your placing, you know, gets bumped up. It's no mistake why Dexter's done so well in the industry, you know, because...
Most pro wins.
100%. He comes in every year, improves every year. He's showing face. He's built his name, you know what I mean? Yeah. So... It's that kind of relationship.
You know, one thing
bro.
I say is absolute. You know, despite this huge overshadowing issue with the Shawn rape allegations and things like that, which I'm very saddened about, it was still an unbelievably fantastic opportunity.
Oh, absolutely,
bro.
And I'll
Shawn,
never,
you've got a fantastic relationship
we still
with.
do, bro. We still do.
Yeah.
I'll never take away that experience. It was absolutely phenomenal.
And I remember you expressing to me your gratitude, the fact that Shawn took time out of his day as a Mr. Olympia,
you know,
to train with you and mentor you,
Go through your
and
posing.
through
not
that
just
and stuff.
once. He actually
and
did
that
it
itself,
twice, right?
speaks to the character and speaks to the character.
He actually
of
did
the
it
man.
for 2 days because as soon as he realized that I'm there for an extra day, he was like, okay, cool.
And what does he have to gain from that person?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Sure.
We got invited to Mike Rashid's gym. Also, as well, great guy. You know, we spent time
You
with him.
sat there and you had your posing refined by
Mr.
Mr.
Olympia,
Yeah.
100%. You know
Unreal.
What I mean?
At Gold's.
And you
And then at Mike's gym.
And you saw the difference. I mean, when I
Sure.
sent pictures to Jack was like, that's how you pose.
Yeah.
So the experience, bro, it's absolutely invaluable.
And so run us through some of the people that you touched base with. You also trained with AJ
Mike
Ellison.
Rashid.
AJ Ellison.
AJ Ellison, what a guy. I've been a massive fan. AJ,
Yeah.
I met you when I competed at WBFF Worlds Vegas. I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
And I met AJ. I was a big fan backstage. And AJ, a hell of a nice guy. He even took time to message me and told me that he thought I looked really, really good on stage. And that meant a lot to me at that stage.
Yeah.
Proper
And when
gent,
Sibu was
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, AJ's here. You know, with respect, the super heavies have this kind of like, oh, yeah, these classic physique
Muscle
theories.
model guys.
I was like, you go immediately. You introduce yourself.
It was in
if not
capital
just
letters.
for me.
It was in capital letters.
Immediate.
It was in capital letters.
Immediate.
Because I was backstage. I'm like, hey,
Immediately.
like, there's AJ backstage.
Immediately.
So Jack was like, immediately go take a selfie and introduce yourself.
Yes.
So that happened.
And I'm glad you did.
I'm-
You saw what a great guy he is.
Absolutely, I'm absolutely fortunate about that, Jack, because we met backstage. He even forgot to pump, bro. We actually conversed so much. I think he forgot for a minute that he's competing.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate he did because
Yeah.
I think, he only managed to procure 4 pro cards the other day.
Straight on.
He won 4 pro cards in the IFBB in one day.
Yeah.
That's great. I think that's such a proverbial fuck you to all the people like, oh, WBFF and
You can't transition.
You'll never be
Yeah.
able to. WBFF can't hold on parity. You'll never get your pro card. He got
4.
4.
Yeah.
4 pro cards.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
he
great
cleaned
guy, bro. We had a training session the next day. And we're still keeping in touch. He wants to come to South Africa again. Would love to host him. He wants to invite me to Canada because he stays in Canada. So that's great, bro. It's been the networking, bro. The networking is absolutely, that was probably
And
the most invaluable
Charles
thing.
Glass. I mean, I've been telling you
Charles
about Charles
Glass, bro,
Glass
for
for years and years and years and
For
years.
years,
Incredible guy.
bro,
Just,
for
I mean,
years.
and I think one of the biggest take homes were when I said to see when he came back, I was like, "Bud, come on, let's like." I'm a good coach. I consider myself like, how much better is Charles Glass? And Sibu said in a very respectful way, he said, Jack, you are the way that you are, and you're meticulous in the way that you are because you've been doing this for 10 years.
Charles Glass has been doing this for?
Been doing this for over 30 years.
So you're the cuck smear.
Thanks.
Oh, no, I should have put it respectfully that, it's Jack.
In the words of Arnold, he is the father.
And Jack is the son. Pretty much.
Yes.
No, it is absolutely. However, though, but what I did notice though, which was absolutely great, is that the techniques that he does, bro. Honestly speaking, and I'm not trying to blow your own horn. It felt like I saw where Jack is going to be in 30 years. You know what I mean? Like I was.
You can almost see similarity between the two, especially in the training, the training techniques.
I promise you. No, I'm not even lying. Like Carl, like I was sitting there. I'm like. I get where I'm going with Jack.
Every single session is out the box.
Yeah,
that's the best part about it.
Like
and that's where I see the similarity.
Like the
between
fact that Jack
two,
will look at a machine and he sees 4 workouts.
Yeah,
Sibu sees 1.
Yeah, I also picked up on that.
You know what I mean? Charles will look at
when you mean out the box, you mean that. Again, people mustn't think that Sibu just goes into a workout and I just wing it.
No.
But I look at an exercise and the slight trivialities and the nuances that I sit there and I say, depress your ribcage here, lean back slightly.
Applying a resistance band.
The proprioceptive connection in the muscle that unfortunately a textbook cannot relay.
Absolutely.
When I've gone through and I've done a particular exercise, and it's the same with Charles and any great coach, they've done a superset or a giant set in a particular order. They've done it in that order because the muscle feels and contracts differently in that order than if you reverse the order.
Absolutely.
And you're trying to maximize that. It's very difficult to try and communicate that and relay that through to a client. And I think where Charles really exceeds is that communication, that relaying of how something feels, and relaying that onto an athlete and getting them to feel that you're communicating a neurological proprioceptive feeling.
Because he's very hands-on. Like I saw from some of the training footage, like it'll be like minor adjustments he makes that makes the biggest difference to the exercise.
You can see it.
But that's what I'm saying.
As he's changing it, you kind of. You're feeling
but
it.
That's
and
what
the
I'm
guy's
saying.
going through, like, I understand.
Like, that's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, when I sat there, I'm like, I see Jack in the training. Like, when Jack is like, depress this, rotate that. Like, you'll see it in our videos with Jack and I, where he's like, do this. And I literally, he's like, chest up. The small, tweaks that he does while you're in the transition.
Yeah.
Charles is exactly the same, bro. Like, he'd be like, okay, no, do this. Like, even in his peripheral, he'd be like, spotting someone else, like, okay, no, do this. As soon as you do that, he's the kind of guy who's like, which part of your body you want me to activate?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll activate exactly that part. And that's so it was.
I would have loved to have a lot of people said to me, Jack, why didn't you go with Cebu?
Yeah.
What's throwing the bottom line is that it's an expensive affair.
Absolutely. Bro.
It's not just about finances. It's expensive from a sweat equity and time perspective to take 2 weeks off from my existing clientele to be there for another. Yeah. And again, I said to Cebu, I was budgeting on him perhaps getting an Olympia pass to go through and to take that time off and then more time later on in the year. Yeah. But so I lived vicariously through Cebu at Golds, California. Yeah. Dude, I'd love to do that. It's definitely on the cards. Hopefully next year we can go and do a show together overseas.
Bro. Absolutely.
But I would do anything to not only just train with Stanimal and Mr. Olympia and Shawn, but to train with Charles Glass would be absolutely. You also bumped into Michael Hearn.
Yeah, bro. He actually gave me a compliment.
He's a resident there.
Yeah,
he's definitely natty. Yeah. He's definitely.
Definitely. Actually gave me a compliment. It's actually quite great, but it's like great physique. Sees a lot of potential. So it was, dude.
You met Hadi Rambard backstage?
Hadi Rambard backstage looked at me as well. He was like, actually asked me where I'm from. So I'm like, no, I'm from South Africa. It's like, great physique. And he also, so it was great.
And you chatted to Chris Acito, but you didn't meet him?
Yeah, so we chatted to Chris Acito as well. Great guy. Also sees a lot of potential. He's actually convinced, with the right, coaching that I do have, is the fact that he actually thinks next year I could crack it, bro. He just said, put my head down, keep working, and we game on.
No, look, a lot of people say, where do you think Sibu needs to refine? And again, I can say this because I'm his coach. Some of you disrespectful motherfuckers on his Instagram have no place saying this, but Sibu does need to work on his back.
Absolutely.
Not because his back is weak. It's weak compared to the rest of his physique, and it's weak compared to the highest echelons of the sport.
It's the fine details.
That's it. And an issue for Sibu was that he perforated L4, L5 into his prep. Okay.
So you couldn't even do any of the
couldn't do any of the deadlifts, the
over
rack
rows.
pulls, any of the bent over movements. Myself and Joshua, who's Sibu's strength coach, will provide a link to his handle at the bottom there. He's also my strength and conditioning coach. Had to think out the box to try and accumulate the thickness, the muscularity, and the development in his mid back without putting compression on the spine or putting additional strain on his back, which was very difficult. Another area we need to work on is Sibu's glutes and hamstrings. Just because at the highest echelons of sports, that's where you gauge and you judge the athlete's conditioning.
Yeah, everyone's so good from the front and from the back. It's the finer areas which will separate you from first and fifth, like glutes, lower back.
Sure. And people are like, how much bigger does Sibu need to get? Yes, Sibu does need to accumulate muscle mass. But if you look at someone like Jay Cutler, I think that Jay Cutler, in his entry level years was the same weight that he was in later years. He was 275 pounds.
Yeah, he actually won the O at a lighter body weight.
Sure. So people are like, what's muscle maturity? It's not at a certain age where all of a sudden you turn 30 and muscle maturity. Muscle maturity is the result of years and years and years and years and tens of thousands of reps. And the best way that, my understanding is it's the difference between sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar hypertrophy. People are like, what does that mean? Myofibrillar hypertrophy refers to the actual myofibrils, the spindles, the muscle fibers themselves, thickening and developing. Whereas sarcoplasmic hypertrophy refers to long-term cell hyperemia, the increase of mitochondrial capacity in the muscle, glycogen capacity in the muscles, and so on and so forth. So the actual, an analogy I can use is the biltong, the jerky-like fibers, thickening. If you look at someone like Dexter Jackson's delts, his delts are not necessarily that much bigger from a measurement perspective than they have been, with 10 years. But the quality, the thickness, the density of those fibers has improved substantially, and that's just attributed to time.
Yeah.
You cannot cheat time.
Yeah.
It's just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of repetitions in certain angles over and over and over time that's going to accrue that development in the muscle tissue. And I think if we can get that under our belt in the next 5 to 10 years, I firmly believe, and remember this moment, that Cebu has what it takes to go all the way.
Absolutely.
What does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean Cebu can potentially be Mr. Olympia. I feel that looking at Cebu's shape, his structure, his God-given talent, and most importantly, his desire and his work ethic, Cebu has what it takes to be the greatest of all time. Sibu has what it takes to be Ronnie Coleman-esque in the industry, hopefully without jeopardizing his health the way that Ronnie has.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion for another day. So that's what Sibu and I are aiming for. We're not aiming to... Sure, Sibu wants to do well from a business capacity. We all do. And I think that the business aspect of it is going to feed the dream. So the two are commensurate. But Sibu and I are going in this with the intention of making Sibu the greatest bodybuilder of all time. People can laugh at that. That's great. I hope they do.
I actually hope they do.
Hate fuels prep and success better than anything else.
Absolutely.
Much better than positive affirmations, negative affirmations. So if people want to hate, that's fantastic. I believe Sibu needs work on his triceps.
Yeah.
So we're going to place a lot of special emphasis on those weak triceps and his big waist. Let's discuss that.
But a
lot of people are saying Sibu has a big waist and it's just going to get bigger. I have no problem with positive criticism. Sibu does need work on his delts. They're good, but they need a lot. They need to be a lot better. Sibu needs a lot of development in his back, his hamstrings, and his glutes, for sure. Sibu does not have a big waist by any stretch of the imagination. Sibu has a fantastic waist. But it is what it is. You're always going to find haters. Please, may they forever be haters.
100%. They just need to keep watching because there's more coming, bro.
That's it. That's great.
Yeah.